With the first week of NFL free agency having come and gone, a lot of the big media personalities when it comes to NFL draft media are updating their NFL mock drafts. So today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be reacting to all the big names and who they have the Steelers taking in round one of the 2024 NFL draft. But before I get into that, we actually put out a mock draft on the channel yesterday. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to put the link in the comments and description of today's show so you guys can see who I have the Steelers taking after week one of NFL free agency. And make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now to never miss any of our videos, whether it be a mock draft, whether it be draft targets, whether it be free agency targets, whether it be breaking news. We have you guys covered on all of it right here on Steelers Talk. We're approaching 50,000 subscribers here on the channel. Thank you so much for all of your support. If you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and join our family. So let's start with the guy that came first when it comes to the NFL draft media. He pretty much invented this entire industry, Mel Kiper Jr., with ESPN. And you know what? I don't always agree with Mel Kiper Jr. I think sometimes with some of his practices, he's still living in the 90s and the early 2000s, and some of his takes and all this different stuff. But you know what? He has the Steelers taking Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU at number 20 overall. Now, there's a lot of rumors going around that the Steelers might trade that number 20 overall pick for a veteran wide receiver like a Brandon Ayuk or a Terry McLaurin or maybe even somebody else. But I like Brian Thomas Jr. at the value there at number 20, and this is what Mel Kiper Jr. has to say about this pick. For new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith to really thrive, the Steelers should add a replacement for wideout Deontay Johnson, who was traded to Carolina. Thomas, who ran a 4.33 second 40-yard dash at the combine, has a tremendous blend of speed and size at 6'3". He caught 17 touchdown passes last season, leading the FBS. Pittsburgh had just 13 total touchdown passes in 2023. Thomas and George Pickens could form an exciting pass-catching duo. And Mel, I think, kind of hit the nail on the head there, where I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a fantastic fit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I would love to have him as the pick at number 20 on one condition, because right now there is a glaring need for the Pittsburgh Steelers that still hasn't been addressed, and if it's not addressed by the draft, I think it's going to have to be addressed in round one, and that is offensive tackle. And traditionally, you have to take a tackle early in the NFL draft if you want them to start right away, all right? So that's usually the way it works. Now, this is a draft class this year with lots of really good offensive tackle talent. It's a deep class. But even in this deep class, if you get an offensive tackle in round two, it's going to be somebody that's maybe toolsy, but maybe isn't ready to play week one. I want somebody that's ready to go right away. And if they don't get somebody in free agency, then I think that you have to go out and use this first-round pick on an offensive tackle. But if you want to go receiver in round one, I think a good option in free agency to go after here is David Bakhtiari. Now, I know what you're saying at home. Jack, Bakhtiari's always hurt, and you're right about that, all right? And he's also getting up there in age, but he is sticking to it here. He says he plans on playing in 2024. He's looking to win a Super Bowl. I mean, it kind of depends how he feels about Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin and all these different things in the Steelers roster. But I could see Bakhtiari trying to sign that one-year deal, probably a real team-friendly deal as well. And when he's healthy and when he's on the field, he's one of the best left tackles in the National Football League. So if I'm the Steelers, I might want to take a nice little lottery ticket on David Bakhtiari in free agency. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. How should the Pittsburgh Steelers address the need at tackle this offseason? Type F if you want to address it in free agency, or type D if you want to get an offensive tackle in the draft. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Now let's get to Daniel Jeremiah. And listen, man, DJ is one of my favorite draft analysts. He's somebody that I really do respect in terms of the things that he says and all these different things, and his analysis is always pretty spot on, and he's usually one of the more accurate mock drafters out there in the space as well. But I gotta tell you, man, I don't love this pick from Jeremiah where he has the Steelers taking Tyler Guyton, right tackle out of OU, at number 20 overall, and he has the Steelers taking Guyton over guys like Jackson Powers-Johnson and Amarius Mims, which is a big head scratcher to me personally. But this is what Jeremiah had to say. The Steelers have undergone a complete makeover at quarterback, but they still need an upgrade at tackle to play opposite last year's first-round pick, Broderick Jones. But my question to Jeremiah here, and I understand he cares a lot about tools, and Tyler Guyton is as toolsy as it gets, man. He's massive. He's got long arms. He's a great mover. I get why Daniel Jeremiah likes him because he's a tools guy. But taking him over Amarius Mims, who's also a tools guy, plus he has way better film than Tyler Guyton, I think is absolutely crazy. And then Jackson Powers-Johnson, I'd much rather have JPJ than Tyler Guyton because I think JPJ's ready to go right away, whereas Guyton is somebody that you're kind of hoping and praying develops by the time that he hits the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers need somebody to start right now. I don't think Guyton is that type of guy. So personally, not a big fan of Daniel Jeremiah's pick here of Tyler Guyton to the Steelers at number 20 overall. Now, coming up here, I'm going to be going over Joel Klatt's latest mock draft. A pretty interesting pick here from Klatt for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before I get into that, I want to talk about today's sponsor at PrizePicks. You can go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Today's Steelers Talk video is made possible by our friends at PrizePicks, and they've got specials for new and returning users alike for March Madness when you head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app today. Football season is over, but the action on the hardwood is just heating up. Whether it's March Madness or the fight for NBA playoff seeding, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of the year. Get in on the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. March Madness kicks off this week, and you can pick more or less right now. PrizePicks is also giving us a free pick for Caitlin Clark's matchup on Saturday. Just select more than 0.5 points for Clark. I mean, I think we all know she's going to get more. She's going to at least one basket, all right? And then pair it with another winner for 3 times your money. PrizePicks is very simple to play. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match of $100 when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app today. You can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy with our friends at PrizePicks. Now, Joel Klatt has the Steelers taking also an offensive tackle, J.C. Latham, out of the University of Alabama. And this one, I think I like a little bit better than Tyler Guyton, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, Latham isn't my favorite prospect for the Steelers to grab at number 20. This is what Joel Klatt had to say on his podcast the other day when he revealed his latest mock. Broderick Jones played right tackle as a first-round pick last year. I think he can move over to the left. That's where he played at Georgia. So for me, I think the Steelers go offensive line here, and they go J.C. Latham. Now, I do think that Latham is a legitimate possibility for the Steelers to consider. All right, they've formally met with him at the Combine this year. Mike Tomlin decided to go to the Alabama Pro Day over a lot of different teams this year. So there's definitely some offensive players that the Steelers are considering this year. I do think J.C. Latham is one of them. He's a hulking, run-blocking right tackle. I mean, he's exactly what the Steelers are looking for, all right? So he does fit the mold of what the Steelers want in their future right tackle. I do think the Steelers want to eventually move Broderick Jones over to the left side. But honestly, guys, Latham isn't my first choice. I would take Talisi Fuaga and Amarius Mims at offensive tackle before I would take J.C. Latham. And honestly, I might take Jackson Powers-Johnson in the first and then take my chances on offensive tackle in the second, overtaking Latham in the first, especially if JPJ is still on the board, because Latham is still relatively raw, especially as a pass protector, and he needs to get better in that area of his game, and that makes me a little bit worried, especially if you're going to be plugging him in week 1 to protect Russell Wilson in this offense. Now let's get to Pro Football Focus's latest 3-round mock draft, all right? So they're definitely getting into these longer mocks here. And, of course, the Steelers have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. So we got 4 picks to react to here, starting with their first pick in number 20. And they're going to go corner for the Steelers, Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. And if you guys have been watching the show for a while, you know how I feel about DeJean, all right? He is somebody that is super versatile, can play safety, can play nickel, can play on the outside. He's like a souped-up version of Brian Branch from last year, whereas Branch was an uninspiring athlete, but one hell of a football player. Cooper DeJean is very similar, where he has versatility, but he is souped up as an athlete. Now, I do think he's going to maybe fall a little bit because of the leg injury that he suffered last year at the University of Iowa. But at the end of the day, man, this guy is absolutely a bona fide number one pick, or round one pick, I should say, and I would be psyched out of my mind if the Steelers ended up getting him. Then in round two, I really like this pick here from Pro Football Focus. They have Zach Frazier, somebody who grew up in Pennsylvania. He's got Yinzer written all over him, in my opinion, man. The center from the Mountaineers falls to the Steelers here at number 51. If he falls to number 51, I do think the Steelers are going to pull the trigger. Then in round three, they have the Steelers going with another behavior issue red flag wide receiver in Jermaine Burton from Bama. Now, Burton is somebody that has had behavior issues in the past. Let's just call it what it is. But he's extremely talented. I mean, tell me if you've heard that one before. Of course you have with George Pickens. So if he's available here in round three, Burton, if he didn't have those red flags with his personality or the questions about his love for the game weren't there, you can make an argument he's a first-round pick. He is that talented, even in this loaded wide receiver class. So in round three, from a talent perspective, this would be an absolute steal. But after just getting rid of Deontay Johnson because of the influence he was having on George Pickens, does it really make sense to be bringing in another red flag behavior type wide receiver in Jermaine Burton? I guess we'll see how Mike Tomlin shakes out on that. Then also in round three, Jarrian Jones, cornerback from Florida State. Now, you guys have seen me mock the other Florida State corner, Renardo Green, to the Steelers multiple times. Jarrian is more, even though he's a little bit bigger than Renardo, actually, he plays in the slot. So he'd be more of a slot guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers, even despite the fact that he's almost 200 pounds. So he's a former safety, moved to corner at Florida State, and he really thrived there. So I do think that he's a pro prospect. I think he's going to be a really good slot corner in the National Football League. Might be able to move outside. I guess we'll have to see on that. But in round three, getting a really good slot corner in Jarrian Jones is something that I would like. Now, the one thing that I don't like about this mock draft from Pro Football Focus is that they don't take an offensive tackle. All right, and the Steelers don't have that position addressed. I mean, Dan Moore Jr., I mean, let's face it, guys, he's a decent swing tackle at best. He's not a true starting left tackle in this league. And if they don't address it in free agency by the draft, I don't see how they go corner over offensive tackle in round one, with all due respect to Pro Football Focus. So here's my grades for these mocks, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm giving the highest grade to Mel Kiper Jr., all right? I disagree with Mel on a lot of things, all right? But I like the pick with Brian Thomas Jr., especially if they can get a guy like David Bakhtiari in free agency. And that's the only reason why it's not an A, in my opinion. And then you get to Daniel Jeremiah with Tyler Guyton, who I do not think is ready to play right away. I'm going to give that one a D because he needs someone to start. Joel Klatt going with J.C. Latham. I'm going to go with a C- because I'd probably rather have Jackson Powers-Johnson at that point. Because Latham still has a little bit of a ways to go, in my opinion. Then Pro Football Focus with Cooper DeJean. I mean, I love DeJean. I think he'd fit perfect in this defense, and this defense would get even better with a versatile weapon like that. So I'll give that one a B. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Which one would you take? These four players, if you could only choose between these four, the guys that the mocks that we have reacted to today, which one are you taking? Are you taking Brian Thomas Jr., type BT? Taking Tyler Guyton, type TG? Are you taking J.C. Latham, type JC? Or if you'd rather go with the corner there with Cooper DeJean, type CD down there in the comment section. That'll be it for today's show, guys. I appreciate you sticking with me here to the end of today's show. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now because we're going to have a bunch of great Steelers draft content coming your way in the coming weeks. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now.